The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Customer Experience, a rich field for big data application. And our guest speaker today is Preetham Kantipal. He's the co-founder and director, Products and Solutions, Bridge I2I Analytics Solutions. Known as an innovative thinker, Preetham has led development and implementation of several high-impact and cutting-edge analytical solutions for Hewlett-Packard and General Electric. Preetham holds MS in Statistics degree from Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, and have played leadership role in developing the large analytics setups of GE and HP from scratch. He has experience of implementing analytics across marketing, sales, risk management, and operations. He is leading Bridge2I efforts in building technology solutions to make analytics and big data accessible, affordable, and available for larger audience, and thus creating sustained impact for businesses. So, without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Preetham.
Thanks for the kind introduction, and then thanks again for inviting me to speak on this very interesting topic called big data. In my last session, I talked about more around general big data, definition of it, how things are changing in the world, what type of applications are we seeing across various different industries. As a practitioner, as a person who had been using analytics for solving different type of business problems, I typically see the problem more from the application standpoint, and hence most of my sessions will probably much more be application focused on looking at what business problem does it really solve. And today I will speak about one of the very interesting area, very close to my heart, and I feel probably one of the most interesting area from big data standpoint, which is customer experience and how big data can really help make customer experience better and hence make a significant business impact. From agenda standpoint, I think we'll first speak a little bit about what exactly is the relevance of customer experience. Why should we really bother about it? Why should we really talk about big data in customer experience? What data does it create? Where does really come this volume, variety, velocity kind of questions when we are talking about customer experience? And then probably we'll deep down into what applications are possible with big data in customer experience, and we'll talk about a few use cases or illustrative examples, which I've either seen personally in my organization or I have seen organizations doing from very close quarters. Moving to the next page, which kind of just a recap of what we talked about, and probably it's not only me, but most of the speakers have talked about this whole concept of very high volume of data, variety of data, across various different type of structured, unstructured sources, and how the data is being created on probably every microseconds, and that being the velocity of the data being a challenge for all of us. As we really see it from application standpoint, we talked about last time that it really creates three type of problem as well as opportunity from an analyst standpoint or a practitioner standpoint. One on how do we store and read such a large data? How do we keep it? How do we keep it? How do we read such data? Second is when we are really talking about such a large variety of data, different type of information, we really don't have much time to go through a long data warehousing process to make it accessible to a larger population in the organization. So how do I really reduce the time to make it accessible to a lot more people? And then finally, how do we make insights much more timely? In few cases, we have to take decisions on a microsecond basis, and if you're not really being able to do that, we're probably losing an opportunity. And as we discussed, few changes in the world, like storage getting cheaper, newer technologies coming on board and being much more used by a lot more number of people and companies, like distributed computing, NoSQL databases, and then I would say the marriage of predictive modeling, statistics, and machine learning to solve some of the problems really helps us take this challenge of how to manage big data to look through an opportunity and see where we can use this for making a sustainable big impact for the organization. Without spending much time on this broad concept, which I think all of you have seen umpteen number of times, let me go quickly onto this area of customer experience, and let's probably see how the customers are really interacting with the company. First and foremost, I think they're obviously experiencing, be it a positive or a negative experience. They're interacting with the sales channel. They're trying to buy stuffs. They're buying something on the retail POS. They're navigating through the websites. They're getting several number of emails, solicitations, marketing materials. They're having problems and talking to support groups. So there are various different ways they're dealing with different parts and and functions of an organization. And then whatever they hear, whatever they experience, they create their own perceptions. Some of the perceptions are certainly reality, and they start expressing that in various different modes. The expression can happen when the organization sends a survey to that individual and say, hey, how did you like working with my salespeople? Did you like the support transaction? Is it something which you would recommend to your colleagues and friends? Is it really value for money working with X company? And people start kind of expressing their thoughts about relationships, what they want to really, what are the areas where they want the company to improve in. And some of them, like many of us, probably go ahead, post their frustrations as well as their positive comments in social media. And then in many cases there probably escalations going at different levels. But for all practical purpose, in various different ways, they're expressing their excitement or frustration, or even in some cases maybe their opinion. And then with social media being more and more popular, being more used by different people, there is a point when if one customer is unhappy, then the circle of influence was much smaller, maybe a few friends. And many of the cases, organizations used to believe that unless and until that particular customer is coming from a very specific area or a very specific place where they have a lot more number of customers, they will not be able to influence negatively or positively any other people. But with social media coming in place, write social media reviews, you mention in the blogs in a positive or negative way, you comment on certain positive or negative posts saying that by the way it's not the case. That really influences a lot more number of people than a close community of friends and relatives. And that makes customer experience and managing customer experience far more important than what it was yesterday. Because at the end of the day, with all of this experience, they're experiencing they're expressing their concerns, they're influencing others, And unless and until you really manage this at the right point of time, they will act their own way. They might be reducing their spend, they might be leaving you and kind of going to another organization, they might be ignoring, or they might, on the other side, might really become a brand ambassador of the organization. Having said that, in this whole process, it really creates a lot more amount of data, because they're really either interacting or expressing in various different places. Like for an example, I've just posted probably a few types of data, but there can be several different types of informations ranging from sales to customer support incidences to customer feedbacks, website logs where people are really kind of going page by page, solicitation history where people are trying to kind of reach out to a customer, social media postings, and things like GPS data where an individual is being tracked. And if you really look at this type of information, you will see all of these, the whole aspects of volume, velocity, and variety. When you're talking about a GPS data, you are really talking about probably every 15 seconds, every individual is sending information about their position. And we really, for one individual, for a day, they can really generate more than 0.4 MB of data. On the other side, for an example, if you're talking about a medium-sized retail store on an annual basis, and I'm really talking about one store, not a chain of stores, a medium-sized departmental store might actually have more than 2 million number of transactions annually. And for the stores which are having chains across all the cities, you accumulate them all together, we're really talking about a huge amount of data as it kind of grows over month by month, year by year. Some of them are structured, some of them can even be very, very unstructured, like customer support incidences. You will have agents scribing down on what they heard from the customer about their issues and what they feel are the potential ways to solve those issues. We're really talking about a various different type of information. Some of them are coming at a very high volume. Some of them are unstructured. But that's what really creates the rich field of customer experience in terms of big data. Moving to the next 2 pages, I would say we'll talk about a couple of examples of companies who have seen this opportunity and has really used this opportunity to their own positives and made an impact to their own bottom line. One will talk about the company called Avis. Many of you probably heard about it. It's already there in India as well. It's a global car rental company. Globally, it has more than 40 million number of customers. The objective for Avis was really to create a process and infrastructure where they can marry all of the structured and unstructured data and build an end-to-end view of a particular customer. The customer is really experiencing in so many different ways in terms of making transactions, when they're going through different pages in the website, they're collecting information about the customer in a separate different way. They're also tracking some of these customers in the social media. Now all of this information, how do we really put them all together and kind of take a call about the customer in a holistic basis and being able to probably assess their lifetime value, saying that I understand this customer might have bought certain amount of dollars and that seems to be very high, but by the way, there are customers who might be buying low at this moment but seems to have a huge potential as we go forward, and hence both of these customers are important, and you cannot really ignore those customers who are potentially going to spend a lot more money with you in years to come. Now that being the problem, the way they really handle it is, first and foremost, they try to kind of get all of these data into a big ecosystem of Hadoop-based ecosystem, and they got these rental transactions, they got the web traffic data, customer data, they kind of matched all of them together. That itself was really a technically quite challenging activity in terms of linking somebody who is making a rental transaction with that individual with what they're really posting in certain parts of social media. And once they did that, they really got a complete 360 view of a customer. Are they engaged? Are they happy? Are they loyal? Are they influencing? Do they have connection with other people? Then they used all of this information to predict the annual number of rentals for each of the customers. So they predicted, how much, based on all of this information, what I see, how much money are they going to really spend in the next 1 year, and what can make them really spend more than what they're spending, today. And that's why, and then they also went across and say, okay, who are those disengaged customers who are not, taking rentals from us anymore, or kind of providing very negative feedbacks to us? Can we really understand what exactly made them unhappy? And then they, try to understand all of this, and use that to their positives. And at the end of the day, they got a significant increase in terms of individuals spending much more money than what they were spending before. They were taking Avis as compared to many other of their competitors, and whenever they were contacting people for solicitation, they were also getting a more than 30% improvement on the effectiveness of such. So that's a story of one of the companies called Avis. Now moving to another company, this is a retail company. It's a global retailer with stores as well as online presence. And during the Thanksgiving through Cyber Monday, that's 3-4 days time. That's a time when in US in particular, it's a time when a lot of people really shop, both in stores and online. And there was a significant drop which this retailer observed from previous year to this year, where they saw that that probably the total purchases are really falling down by 3%. And then the next question they had is that, can really big data help solving this problem? Can I really make my offers much more personalized and improve the spending by each of the individuals? What they did was very similar. The first and foremost, they got the data together. They really mapped out the whole organization and say what's really important from an organization standpoint. Is it traditional data from inventory, pricing, payment, logistics, or is it unstructured data, coming from click streams, coming from page views, coming from the geographical information which they're capturing? And they kind of got all of them together into a big data setup, and they created some micro segments of customers or visitors, and say that what type of customers are they, and what are they buying, what type of clicks, what type of web traffic that they're kind of showing. And then they also created on the front end a situation where an in-memory database is placed, which kind of continuously tracks of a particular individual or a visitor when they're in the website. And this in-memory database is getting updated on a periodic basis with all of these user segmentation. And all of these informations are getting used together to, to on the fly optimize on what should be the right offers and promotions which should be relevant for a particular customer. And they kind of completely changed the game, and they personalized the experience. People were shown what they would like to really look at as compared to, kind of bombarding them with any other offers. And that not only increased the experience, web experience of the customers, it also significantly increased the effectiveness of each of the promotions which they were doing. They had small micro segments, and they could really improve the initial spend which each of these individuals did from each of the micro segments, from last year to this year. So the whole idea was to really kind of get the data together and let's see how we segment people, how we understand the specific needs of each customers and act accordingly. Moving to that, we talked about a couple of problems and we talked about a couple of companies who have solved that problem. But does that mean that it's really already solved? People are it's not an area where we need to innovate. It's not. It's really an area where probably only a few people have really gained some level of mastery. And this is an area which is going to be important for each of the companies because on a competitive space, if one really reacts, the other need to really react. Now, if you talk about, I think there was a research either from Forrester or Temkin who kind of looked at some of these and say, okay, when there is a bad experience, are people really talking about it? Is it this influence thing which we are talking about? Is it really real? So we saw that, the research basically says that if you had really had a bad experience, probably you're talking, people are talking to around, or 65% of the people are talking to their friends. But then there are 35% of the people who are, and that's very small, they're really sending the feedback saying I had a bad experience. Another 65% does not even, bother to send a feedback. And then 25% actually expresses in social media. So you can see that, I think there's a large chunk of cases where it is really unknown to you unless and until you really reach out, you understand each customers in a much more granular way. And we have seen recently that 65, more than 60% of the enterprises have really dedicated budget from innovation standpoint in customer experience. And that innovation is not only on big data or analytics, it is also on how they innovate on the platforms through which customers interact. But this is certainly an area where big data and analytics is getting a lot of importance. Having said that, moving to the next page, I would say, if I kind of combine all of these together and say, that there might be a dream or maybe a possibility of, can we really put all of these transactions, interactions of one single customer in one single place? How do we really connect them? If I ask this question 5 years, 7 years before, number one, the type of data we are talking about were not even relevant at that time. Number two, in many cases, it is not even. In many cases, it's we cannot even think about from technology standpoint in keeping such a huge variety and volume of data in one single place. So we are really talking about, if you think about a customer, there will be sales touch points, from channels, website, sales individuals are kind of going and interacting with the customer. There will be a lot of marketing efforts. Emails will be sent. In some cases, probably 5 emails in a month. There will be social efforts to reach out and influence customers to buy. There will be telephonic calls. There will be a lot of cases where customers are interacting on the customer service basis. They're writing something on the social. So if you think about putting all of this data together and think about a situation where you can really connect dots between an interaction happening somewhere and an action happening somewhere. Like for an example, when I see somebody being extremely unhappy and writing something on social media, probably in the database, I'm able to figure out that what are those interactions they have gone through in recent past. Did they have a very bad support experience? Are they getting too many emails on the recent days? Did we find this customer saying to the sales guys that the products are not relevant for me? So can we really correlate all of these events? Can we correlate and our customers' buying and non-buying or not purchasing behavior with their history, with their interactions at that point of time, and use some of those triggers to really potentially change and improve some of this customer experience. So that's really the broad picture of opportunity, no doubt. And obviously, if we have to kind of put all of them together, leaving the complexity of how you can connect things like offline and online, it is really a huge field of research from a customer experience standpoint. You will need all sorts of technology, not only from the volume velocity standpoint, but also from the standpoint of how do you structure such data so that, for lack of a better term, you can query on any interactions and any expressions, so to say, from the database itself. Now, having said this as an opportunity or a dream, let me try to kind of come down to reality and say, what's really can be done at this stage, so to say, from big data standpoint in customer experience. Now, as I kind of summarize many of these points, there are 3-4 different questions which are coming up, right? So, how do I really get this 360-degree view of the interaction? How do you measure loyalty? And how do you know what is driving loyalty? How do we assess the issues faced by customers? Is it really impacting them? Are they really frustrated about it? How do you leverage the new age media? How do I influence customers? Especially, how do you manage the customers who can influence many others when they have a negative, kind of experience? Now, if I put all of them together, maybe there are 4 areas where a majority of actions are happening from customer experience standpoint. One, on how do we really track the feedbacks? How do we make a process of continuously tracking the feedbacks and the issues which are being communicated by the customers? Customers might be communicating by answering to some of the surveys. They might be writing back an email, might be some nasty email saying that this is what the type of experience I'm getting. They might be writing in different places. They might be talking to a support agent. But how do I really keep a track of all of these and being able to figure out where exactly, in which places, which functions, which regions are we facing challenge in terms of customer experience? On the second part, it is about monitoring social activity. There is a lot of effort which goes in social monitoring, social media, analytics. If I come down to really customer experience space, social monitoring really also happens on the overall area of brand experience, so to say. But in customer experience, it is more about measuring what are people talking about, positives or negatives about certain features. Now, if I come back and tell you that, people are talking very highly positive about Bridge I2I, it really does not really help Bridge I2I to take any call. But if you can come back and say, people are talking about certain things of Bridge I2I in a very positive way and certain things of Bridge I2I in a negative way, that becomes much more actionable. And that is where monitoring of social media becomes very, very important, because it can have a viral impact. Third one is about identifying triggers. I think I talked about, like, for an example, if somebody is really traveling through a particular space where there is a large retail store, the retail store understands the individual's presence in and around in the mall, and probably communicates with that individual through mobile and others on certain offers which is relevant on that day. Or can we really identify certain life triggers, like, for an example, marriage, newborn kids, various different places where they might be needing very, very specific kind of products, and being able to relate to that and go back to the customers will not only increase their chance of buying, but also improve their customer experience. And last but not the least, with all of these things together, how do I really understand the customers in a much more granular way and make your actions and recommendations much more personalized. Having said that, these being the 4 areas where customer experience analytics and big data can really help, let me go into 3, 4 or 2 or 3 illustrations on how some of these are really possible and feasible. The first one I will take is really continuous tracking of customer feedbacks, and this is one of the place where I myself is really involved in building a solution called Extract in Bridge I2I. But this is an area where the idea is to really integrate different types of data along with survey data to understand what customers are really talking about your product. You go to talking about certain surveys, connect that with each of the support instance they're having. For an example, let's say we are really talking about customer support satisfaction situation where on a daily basis there might be 1,000 to 2,000 number of support transactions happening, and somebody and after each of these support transactions, individuals are getting an email or maybe a call back and saying that, did you like the interaction? Was it solved? Was the agent courteous? Did the problem really get resolved first time? And then you connect that with who was the agent who handled it. What sort of agent they are. Are they senior agent, junior agent? What sort of products had you problem with, right? So what was and what time did you call? Which call center did you call? So all of this information can be really pulled together into a big data kind of framework, and then the idea is to really have two-prong approach. One, where you identify a few matrices which are very important for the organization to keep tracking, and keep certain dashboards which has an ability to kind of have the ability to kind of drill down and see what is happening, get a feel about what exactly are the main things which are impacting, or main regions or main segments where customer experience has an issue. And the next part is really how you identify the key drivers which is impacting customer experience. Now, is it the time taken to reach the call center? Is it the number of times number of times you have to interact before a problem is solved, or is it because the way the individuals from the call center or the contact center really talks to you, or is it the ability for an individual to solve and understand your problem? So how do you really kind of assess all of these and say what is impacting your overall satisfaction, and what do you really focus on? Because at the end of the day, you might get to feel that okay, your customer experience is improving or decreasing, but unless and until you know that what exactly is the main reason for the improvement or degradation, and what lever you need to pull to kind of get it back to in a good shape, you will obviously not be able to kind of make any progress. So that's that's really becomes key, and how continuously you can do that, how automated you can do that, how easy for you to not only look at the rating kind of information, but also look at the textual comments which people provide, or the scribes which agents are writing, which are all unstructured, open-ended comments. How you also being able to kind of analyze that and see the sentiment around it becomes the key for assessing customer experience and taking taking a step on that. Having said that, let me go to another illustration of such a solution. Now, this is a completely different type of customer, or different type of company. It's a European media company, and they really place video contents next to some of the say newspaper or similar magazine kind of content. So you might have seen a lot of places where just next to certain contents which are written about maybe a political persona or maybe a particular historical situation, a video might be available for you to click and see. Now, this is a company which kind of have relationship with many such news and magazine kind of websites, and they have a partnership by which they place these such videos in those partner websites. And the way they make money is when a customer or a visitor who is kind of moving through that page gets excited about seeing a particular video, and they come and probably roll on that video or click on that video, advertisement is played, and based, if that advertisement is really seen for some time, they make money, right? So what is really important for them is how and what kind of ads do I really show to an individual. And for an example, let's say customer A who browses through such websites, the customer is a male customer, it's 35 years old, highly web savvy, and by the way, because they're unknown customers or rather visitors to the websites, the media company does not really know what exactly is the profile of that customer, right? The only thing they know about the customer is about what have they really done in each of these partner websites. So they know that in partner website 1, they have never visited that website. They know that in partner website 2, they probably had 3 visits. They have seen certain videos. They have actually watched and clicked certain ads. They might have even and they might have also seen certain type of contents in that website. Probably in a website N, they have probably had around 12 visits. They've seen several number of videos. They have mainly saw the sports pages, and they have never clicked on any ad on that page, right? So those are the type of information which is available, along with probably a very broad level demography saying, this partner website 1 is really a beauty magazine for women, and mostly women really come there of the age of X to Y. And there is another website which is mainly for around nutrition value, specifically kind of made for elderly people, and that's where typically people of age more than 40, 50 typically comes to that page. So that's the kind of information which is really available to this company, and the challenge for them is to really figure out when the customer next time visits a partner P website, what advertisement and video to show. Remember, when a right video is shown, you obviously have a much higher engagement. You have a video about maybe a female beauty product, and you show it to a male person. It's not only disengaging, it is also a little irritating for the individual who is kind of browsing through, right? So when you are showing a right video, it is giving a better experience, better engagement, and also higher chance of clicking on the advertisement, which also individual, end of the day kind of makes money for the company. On the other side, when you are showing a wrong video and advertisement, it's certainly a lost opportunity. You got an opportunity where you could show the right kind of content and advertisement and made a money, but you lost that opportunity. And then obviously you kind of probably in some cases irritated the customers by showing something completely disengaging and completely irrelevant. Now, how do I really solve this challenge, so to say, right? Now, how typically the problem is solved is number one, you need to really integrate all of this information, right? So how we did it is, using Hadoop, HDFS, we kind of got all of this history data together. The website navigation, what pages, what sort of pages have they gone, are they going to, kind of mainly sports pages, beauty pages, what sort of videos have they watched, what sort of ads have they clicked, what sort of ads they skipped, what sort of content they watched. That some of these websites also had a continuous kind of pop-up surveys which was asking questions around some of the demographic questions on age, and gender. And you probably only for 1 or 2% of the cases people respond to that, and that data is also kind of, by the way, available. Now, when you put all of this data together in a way that that you can really run queries through all of them, properly indexed, kind of highly distributed across different machines, because the data size we are talking about is more than a few hundred GBs. When you do that, the next part really comes is how do I create small segments within the overall customer base. Now, can I really do a dynamic qualification? Based on all of the pages they have visited, based on the type of videos they have watched, type of ads they had been interested in, type of contents they have seen, can I really, with certain probability, ascertain that this customer is coming? This customer is actually a female customer of age probably between 30 to 50. Right, so that's the crux of the algorithm. Obviously, we had to use a lot of machine learning algorithms to learn from this data, and then based on all of these, based on what they have seen before, based on the segments, based on the qualification, you have a dynamic recommendation happening on what videos and advertisements should be shown, and then you have a self-learning module which kind of reads back from what is happening when you are actually showing certain videos or certain advertisements. Some people are clicking, some people are not clicking. So you use that information to kind of keep on improving yourself over time. And that's really the overall module which helped to not only understand the customers in a much better way, but also make make recommendations which are much more personalized. And result, what happened? Obviously, we got a much higher satisfaction rate from the customers, saying that we had been tracking overall satisfaction on each of the websites, and we got a much higher satisfaction rate. We got much less cases where people are shown a particular video and then they skip it. We have much lower cases where we have shown an ad and people kind of close that ad. So it really significantly improved not only the experience of the customers, but also the ability to make money for that for the European media company. Having said that, let me go to the last illustration and situation, which is probably on the social monitoring space. I talked about one on the tracking, overall feedback tracking. I talked one example on the area of personalization, and the last one I'm going to talk about is on social monitoring of customer perception. Now, this is another company which is the Golf Entertainment Complex. Now, if you really go to this place or this, it's basically a chain of retail shops or retail companies. We can probably call them less of a golf space than more an entertainment place. So you get food, you get all the other kind of excitements around. It's more a place where people who don't know golf can go together and have fun. Now you can really picture like a 240-yard outfield with dartboard like targets, and if you're really hitting those targets, you're getting certain points. And this company had they had their own view on what is really what are the real strengths for this company and what is working out, what is not working out. And what they really wanted to get is, where do they stand on the social media? Are people talking about them? What exactly are the issues which is being discussed and talked about? What is the sentiments aligned with each one of them? And then trying and understanding that what areas customers want them to really improve. Now, what we did, um, yeah, on the next page, is basically we tried to first and foremost we kind of got data from areas like Facebook, Twitter, some of the review sites like Yelp, TripAdvisors, and others. And the idea was to first and foremost measure the buzz and engagement. You know, how many people are talking about it, how many people are retweeting, are kind of mentioning, you know, while they're kind of writing about anything to do with golf or entertainment. The second part was really assessing the competitive scenario. Now, you know, what we call a share of voice. Now, if 100 people are talking about such things, how many people are talking about them as compared to their competitors in that space? The third part was, you know, as I talked about before, you know, you can come back and say that, you know, people are talking negative about you in social media. That does not really give any positive opportunity for you to kind of make any change. The idea is that, can I really identify what are people talking about? Like, for an example, for the golf company, people are talking about the Bay Area, the area where you know, the game is happening. The you know the ground, the pricing, the parking space, the food which was available, the staffs which are managing and kind of, you know, providing them all the foods and all the other amenities. And so you basically, what we had to do is really not only look at sentiments and mentions from the standpoint of overall the golf company, but also within that golf company, are people talking very positive things about the Bay Area, the golf game itself, or the food, or the parking area? And then, you know, that really gave much more stronger results on saying that, okay, by the way, people are very excited about certain areas which we might not be even knowing about. Like, for an example, people were more excited about the food, about the fun part of the activities as compared to the golf ball and the technology, which they were all thinking that that's like the most positive thing which people will you know, talk about. And then the next part was really, how do you correlate some of the sentiments of positive and negative sentiments with overall satisfaction? Now, depending on, you know, somebody who is talking about certain of these things from you know, comments and unstructured data standpoint, and relate it back to overall satisfaction and say that what exactly having an overall importance on improving you know, satisfaction. Is it food quality which is going to improve satisfaction? I understand that I might be doing well on food quality, but does it really have a high level of importance on overall satisfaction? And that really gave a completely different type of view about, you know, about their customer experience and what they used to believe. Now, things like, you know, pricing, things like availability of parking, because it used to be so crowded in the evening on few of the days that, you know, people did not have space for parking, and they had to kind of go back, or they had to wait for a long period of time before their turn used to come. Those were the irritants which came up very significantly, and they had absolutely no clue about it. Now, you can really get these surprises when you are not tracking your customers in a much more effective way. Not only from one source, which is like, you know, what customers are telling you on the ground, but also if you don't try to kind of get data from social and other sources. And, you know, if you look at the crux of the story, there are two parts, right? One, how do I really go through this textual information and peel them out and basically say that, okay, what exactly are the things which is being talked about? Like, for an example, in the left-hand side, you can see the example. You know, I love the food and drink services that is at, you know, at every heating mat, and the prices were not completely outrageous, right? So you can see that, you know, people are talking about food and beverages, people are talking about pricing, and there showing different sentiments. So there are the places like food and beverages, people are probably much more positive, while on the pricing, people are talking much more maybe neutral to negative. And on the next side is that we cannot really stop at kind of just understanding what is happening. We need probably machine learning, analytic solution, how we can link that with overall satisfaction. And all of these are really possible when you really put down overall big data kind of setup. In this case, probably you need things like MongoDB and others to kind of handle such kind of unstructured data. Now that's where I'll probably stop. I try to kind of give few examples of scenarios, but the idea is that it's really a budding field. Customer experience improves when you personalized your actions, and unless and until you have a better understanding of the customer need, and unless and until you attend to them on an immediate basis, and being able to kind of personalize your actions for that customer, or if not possible, at least for a set of customers, we'll obviously not be able to gain from from standpoint of improving customer experience. Having said that, I'll stop it here and probably take next 5 to 7 minutes to answer a few of the questions.
Thanks for the insightful presentation, Preetham. Let's quickly take up the questions now, as you have just mentioned. I request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to your insights. So are you able to see the questions in your question doc?
They're just coming.
All right, so you can start taking them one by one. Just read aloud the entire question.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you talk about high volume of data, but for enterprise, I mean the questions that kind of updating, so I can't see all the time. But I think it's all about I think somebody is asking questions about, is the social media data really a high volume data, and can we treat them more as a kind of structured, simple data? I kind of broadly agree with you that it's not a high volume, but I think question is that is it really the unstructuredness of the data, and what you want to how you want to keep the data in the most possible way, so that you don't only look at from the standpoint of gaining some metrics on how many people are talking about X or how many people are talking about Y, but when you are trying to kind of connect the dots between internal data, external data, when you are trying to kind of link satisfaction with sentiment, in that case it is important, even if the volume is not high, it is important to kind of use some of the NoSQL kind of databases rather than usual databases. I'm kind of defining big data in a little more generic way. So here probably the variety and unstructuredness which really impacts the need of big data analytics. People are talking about use of what type of programming skills are used in big data. I think it's a much more generic question, but yes, I mean I think if I go back to the basics, yes, Java programming is something which is used very significantly. We use Hadoop as our overall big data cluster, as well as some of the NoSQL databases. And for Hadoop, knowledge of Java is certainly a big plus, along with obviously ability to kind of write queries. Yeah, so there are questions on when you say reduce time to make data accessible, which is a real challenge in the market, is the data is not shared so easily. I completely agree with you. I mean, I think for an example, we talked about Twitter data analysis, and there are a lot of constraints on what part of the data you can use. Same thing for Facebook and others. I think in all of these cases, we'll have to really deal with the situation staying within the constraints. Like, for an example, in Facebook, um, there are ways in which you can probably mine only the data of your fans and the people who are kind of liking your pages or your friends, and you kind of try and get data from there. There are vendors who provide data of certain type, from certain sources, and we kind of go there. But it's certainly a problem or a challenge for many of the vendors. And I think it certainly impacts the whole concept of making data accessible. Now, when I said really making data accessible in a short period of time, I really tried to say in a little different way. I really tried to kind of pinpoint the difference between what used to happen 10, 15 years back to now in certain cases. Like, for an example, maybe 10 years back, the only way to make data accessible was to really go through a big data warehousing activity. And in many cases, unless and until the data is as critical as probably providing a specific customer information or a financial information which is really required on a more or less day-to-day basis, the information used to be parked outside or never touched. But now, given all of these technologies, given we can keep more, given we have technologies which does not kind of force you to go through such a huge, long process of data warehousing, the expectation is that you will learn fast and you will make this data available fast. So I'm less talking about things on kind of conglomeration of data, of kind of taking data from different sources and making it accessible. I'm more talking about the speed by which once the data is available, you make it accessible to a lot more people through using NoSQL databases, through using Hadoop and others.
Due to time constraint, Preetham, I have to ask you to take one last question. After that, you can sum up the session for today, and I will share with you the unanswered questions so you can, through email, so you can answer them later on. So can you see the last question coming to you?
Right. So I think some questions are there. So let me take one of them. So one of these are really talking about when a solution really comes, how is it really acted upon, and so I think that's in my last webinar also I talked about that big data as a phenomenon is really a very a lot of people talk about that it's an hype, but I strongly feel that the opportunity is absolutely real. The only way the opportunity can derail is that that people do not really focus on implementability, and people focus more and more on technicality. So I agree with many of you that there are significant amount of big data work which is happening in today's world, or happened, I would say, in the last 2 years, which is more on experimentation without really understanding that whether the experiment you are doing is really critical for the company or not. And that yielded some actions which were not even actionable or not even important enough to act on from the standpoint of making money. Now, but we have seen also situations where people have taken specific actions from big data, and some of the examples I talked about, even not only for us but also some of the couple of examples I gave before, people have taken actions and they have made a significant impact. Now, it's very important that you choose the right field for experimentation. Big data is not, it's not that it's not completely entirely mathematical that you put the data and the data will come out in this way. You have to really experiment and choose the place of experiment in such a way that you all agree that if you succeed, it's an area where you can make impact to the organization. So I'll probably stop it there because there are a few questions. Unfortunately, time is not there. I'll again thank all of you for joining the webinar, and thanks TechGig for inviting me to speak again.
And I'm really thankful to our guest speaker for conducting this wonderful webinar today. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Preetham, for taking the time out and having us today. So have a great evening ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.